Now joined by TSN Hockey insider Chris Johnston. Chris, what is the level of concern when it comes to the Leafs crease right now?
Well, there's a high level of concern for Matt Murray because he's been through this in the past. He's had head injuries and a number of other ailments, so this is not a great time for him to get injured. But I don't know that there's a huge level of concern for the Maple Leafs because I think that there was already a pretty strong and compelling case that Ilya Samsonov would be getting the starts at the start of the playoffs. He's been their most consistent performer throughout the year, and even their number 3 option, Joseph Woll, who's going to now play some games down the stretch, has been pretty strong. And let's remember, just because Matt Murray's out now doesn't mean he's gone for the rest of the season. We'll have to see how things develop in his situation, but there's also still an opportunity for him to get healthy and come back into this equation if need be. But I think Samsonov was going to be the guy, and now there's no question about that. He is the Leaf starter for the playoffs.
And you mentioned it. Woll's been really good. He's won 3 of 4 NHL starts this season. His only loss to the Blue Jackets in this building. He'll start tonight, gets a chance at revenge. So 6 games left before the playoffs. What's the most interesting experiment that Sheldon Keefe has on the go right now?
Well, I know everyone wants to say that the line he's loading up is the most interesting. I think the one that he's weakening, at least on paper, for me is the most interesting, and that's Austin Matthews with Michael Bunting and Calle Jarnkrok. All respect to those wingers, but obviously not one of the Leafs' top forwards now playing with Matthews. And I think how that experiment turns out could have huge implications on what the Leafs do in the playoffs. I mean, there's obviously going to be a matchup decision if you're able to play Matthews without a Mitch Marner, without William Nylander, without John Tavares, maybe even Ryan O'Reilly. If you're leaving those players to be sorted out across the second and third lines or 2 of the other 3 lines, I think that will create issues for the Lightning. And so how that goes, if Matthews can stay hot and beyond the form that he's been on without having one of the elite players beside him, I think could be a huge outcome for the Leafs, and I think it's one of the more interesting things to watch here in these remaining regular season games.
Well, I'm interested in the loaded up line. I mean, you got to be, especially John Tavares, right? Keefe made the point that Tavares is a guy who does his damage in the middle of the ice. He needs wingers to get him the puck in those dangerous areas. Well, playing with Marner and Nylander, no excuse for the captain moving forward. All right, last question. What is the next step in the saga that is Michael Bunting and the officials?
Well, I think it begins and ends with Michael Bunting for me. And look, life isn't fair. Hockey isn't always fair. The referees are humans, and there's human decisions in that. And so really, what does he have to control? That's his own conduct on the ice, the way he treats the officials, what he says. And so has he earned that reputation? That's up for the debate. But to me, when we talk about where this is going forward, this is a player who can't take penalties. It's one thing, I know he draws a lot of penalties, but he can't be taking as many penalties as he's taken. And if that means he's got to go course correct and get it on the other side of the rule book, I think that's the only thing for him, because if he's taking a penalty in the playoffs, that could cost the Leafs. I know he wants to be in a position to help them. He's got to watch his own conduct and hope everything adjusts from there.
Bunting did everything he could to downplay this storyline this morning, but he's second in penalties drawn, also second in penalties taken in the NHL.